Why is it losing focus?
Why? Because you are stupid.
Back in 1903, we used to buy Coca-Cola with the original recipe where they used special white powder to make the drink taste better. However, I never bought it to drink because instead I boiled the Coca-Cola until I was left with the special white powder, which I sold to homeless people on the street. Anyways, the Coca-Cola recipe got changed after that, but recently somebody has somehow cracked the code of the new recipe. Perfectly replicating Coca-Cola took me a year by lab coats.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Lab Coats. Did you know Coca-Cola is the world's most popular non-alcoholic beverage?
No.
That's a little tidbit I picked up as I studied literally every aspect of this drink for almost a year at the cost of my own sanity, but I digress.
Damn.
Point is, Coca-Cola is kind of a big deal. Practically every human being on the planet knows what it is. And yet, despite existing for almost 140 years,
nobody knows the recipe.
Only a handful of people actually know what it's made of. As a matter of fact, the Coca-Cola secret formula is one of the most tightly guarded trade secrets to ever exist.
And the number one tightly guarded traded secret is the Krabby Patty secret formula. According to the company, only 2 employees are allowed to know the formula at any given time, and they're not permitted to travel together. Wait, so that means, so if one person, so they can't travel together just in case both of them die in a plane crash, so then nobody will know the formula. So that means in the entire world, only 2 people know the complete formula. That is insane. When one dies, the other must choose a successor within the company and impart the secret to that person. Wait, so these are just regular employees within the companies? Like they're not even like part of the founders or like descendants of the original Coca-Cola founder? Why are we treating this like a ritual, like a knighting ritual? When you die, you have to pass it on to somebody else. Meanwhile, the person you're passing it on to maybe is getting paid minimum wage just to hold the secret. Imagine dedicating your entire life to the Coca-Cola secret formula, the Krabby Patty secret formula, bro. Isn't that what that's what SpongeBob did, didn't he? This would be SpongeBob in real life. The identity of the 2 employees in possession of the secret itself is a secret. Damn, wait, so that means maybe nobody knows the secret.
With protective measures so extreme that they're almost laughable. Seriously, they have a giant steel vault that they show off on guided tours. Does that not sound like something straight out of SpongeBob?
Exactly.
And if that wasn't enough, the ingredients are all shipped unlabeled and from entirely different facilities.
Unlabeled, bro. If you're shipping ingredients unlabeled, isn't that like a really good way to ship around drugs? Like, imagine if Coca-Cola was just like money laundering instead of actually shipping drinks. They were just like dealing drugs all around the globe because they're allowed to ship unlabeled stuff.
Who are kept almost entirely in the dark about what they're making. So much effort, all for a soft drink that the company half-heartedly promotes with horribly out-of-touch AI commercials. Wouldn't it be funny if somebody managed to steal the secret formula right from under their noses, piece together a chemically identical beverage with the exact same flavor, and then tell absolutely everyone on the internet how to make it themselves? To most sane people,
this probably sounds like a fool's
errand. After all, many have attempted the quest and invariably came up short.
Yeah, those don't look like Coca-Cola.
I tried all their formulations, none of them tasted like real Coke. So, is this even possible? Well, in theory, yes.
Well, not
One
really.
article from 2016 theorized that the recipe could be deciphered with the help of mass spectrometry. Although the author basically concluded that only a major group like Pfizer would have the time and resources to actually do so. Guess this was before science YouTubers got serious, cause I actually have 2 YouTube friends with 2 different kinds of mass spectrometers, and one even happens to be a college professor.
Wait. Are we throwing our colleagues under the bus? This guy's gonna have a massive lawsuit coming his way after this video. Like, he's gonna be an accomplice to this heist. You've just stolen the secret formula.
Yeah, we're coming for you, Coca-Cola.
Oh, but Zach, Coca-Cola uses coca leaves. You can't possibly hope to replicate it without...
Have you heard of chemicals? I'm aware that whatever I make won't be absolutely identical down to the trace contaminants. But if I add all of the major flavoring agents that are detected in real Coca-Cola, I should get something that tastes like Coke, regardless of if it came from a coca plant. And spoiler alert...
It does?
Yeah, I can't even tell. Even though I know already, I can't even tell.
I wasn't expecting it to taste so much like Coke. Oh my god.
This approach actually works pretty freaking well. And in regards to legality, well, Coca-Cola hasn't actually patented the
Oh
recipe.
yeah, because you can't. Yeah, so if you patent anything, then you have to like. So yeah, so basically, the reason why you can't patent stuff is because, well, actually, you technically can, but the problem is that if you patent something, you have to literally expose to the public the exact way that you make the Coca-Cola, so that nobody can copy your exact way of making it. And so if they patented the actual Coca-Cola recipe, they would have to basically publish the formula online. And then of course, you know, like people like in overseas and like other countries, they're gonna like, you know, completely ignore the patent and just do it themselves. I think this is also the reason why Scrub Daddy haven't patented their sponge design sort of thingy, because if they did, then they'd have to literally leak how they make their sponge design, like the one that goes hard in cold and then soft in like warm water. They would have to pretty much leak that to the internet, and then, you know, all the factories overseas would just be pumping them out as soon as he does that.
Doing so would require them to expose what they're actually
Exactly.
patenting, and that's obviously not something they want to do. Consequently, unless I try marketing my own product under the Coca-Cola name, there's really nothing they can do about it.
Lab Cola.
So, what are we waiting for? Let's get cooking. Now, believe it or not, we already know over 99% of Coca-Cola's makeup, at least by weight.
What's on the
A
ingredient list,
liter
right?
of Coke contains roughly 110 grams of sugar, 96 milligrams of caffeine, and 0.64 grams of phosphoric acid, based on pH measurements and other scientific analysis. It also contains caramel color, which contributes important flavor compounds like furfural, in addition to the cola's rich brown hue. What we don't know is what makes up the last ingredient.
High
Natural
fructose.
flavors.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong one. Bro, why would it be high fructose corn syrup? Okay, natural flavors. Okay, so I guess this is their way of making it like a secret formula, because technically natural flavors could be anything. Like it could be natural, I don't know, like homemade special sauce. It could be a homemade special sauce flavor, because technically that's natural. That's 100% organic.
This is where the real battle begins. As of 2025, only one of the natural flavors can be definitively verified: decoconized coca leaf extract. The Stepan Company in New Jersey is one of the only American companies licensed to work with coca leaves. And guess who they sell the extract to once the cocaine is removed?
Coca-Cola.
Cola nut extract was also used at one point, but it was phased out in favor of refined caffeine. I tried finding my own source of cocaine-free coca extract.
Whoa, okay. Well, how are you going to find the, like, wait, bro. I'm sure you were trying to find the DRUG free version of it. I'm sure you weren't just trying to find the DRUG to consume yourself.
But companies like Power Leaves never returned my emails, and the package I bought from this definitely not sketchy Peruvian website got seized at the border. So basically, I was at square one, like every other
You
non-Coca-Cola
couldn't
entity,
contain it because they
which
thought it
meant
actually
I had
had
to
the
work up the entire
DRUG.
flavor profile from scratch. At first, I thought this might be fairly easy. I mean, several cola recipes are already published, including the original Pemberton Coca-Cola from 1886, so I figured it'd simply be a matter of tweaking these until I got something that fit. Long story short, I was very, very wrong. As a starting point, most recipes call for the following set of flavors: orange, lemon, lime, coriander, nutmeg, cinnamon,
Coriander?
vanilla, and neroli. A few other ingredients that get suggested include black pepper, lavender, clove, and kaffir lime leaf.
Bro, absolutely no way there is black pepper or lavender in Coca. Absolutely no way there's lavender in Coca-Cola.
So I bought all these flavors as essential oils from reputable vendors.
Kaffir lime leaf. I think that's
Using
definitely
essential oils in
could be in
food
it.
might sound a bit strange, but rest assured this is fairly standard practice in the food and beverage industry, as it allows for very precise and repeatable combination of flavors. To run my early trials, I would measure precise volumes of each oil using a micropipette, and combine them in a small vial. Once mixed, the required amount of flavor oil would be dissolved in roughly 1 milliliter of food-grade alcohol.
Bro, but there are so many different combinations and permutations of this. Like, you're gonna add 1 milliliter of this, and then 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, it's like infinite permutations. Sure, you can just get like an AI to run an algorithm on it and like just see what has like the highest probability of success, and then only do those combinations.
Which helps it disperse into the soda instead of clumping into droplets. This was an issue I faced when I made root beer from sassafras oil a few years ago, and the ethanol practically eliminates it without throwing off the flavor. Finally, the flavor mixture will be measured and added to a predetermined volume of soda, which was made with the established proportions of acid, caffeine, caramel color, and sugar. Pretty straightforward. Initially, I attempted to use something called an orthogonal array to perform my analysis. Nighthawk and Light has an excellent video explaining how these work, which I highly recommend you check out. But basically, an orthogonal or Taguchi array is a type of mathematical table that allows you to find meaningful correlations with a relatively small number of trials. In my case, I was hoping to determine which flavors contributed the most to the flavor of cola. Unfortunately, the human mouth perceives flavor mixtures in really complicated ways.
Bro, like, how are you going to tell the difference between this bottle to this bottle to this bottle to this bottle? To me, I bet if I tasted all of them, they'd all taste the same to me. And also, what if you accidentally mislabel one of them? And so, like, in your data, one of them is like the wrong label, and then that sort of throws off like the rest of the experiment.
So my results were highly inconclusive, and often disgusting. That said,
why would you eat
I
it
did
raw?
actually learn a lot by doing this. In terms of flavors, nutmeg, cinnamon, and coriander seem to contribute the most to the iconic cola flavor, but not without a strong citrus base composed of lemon and lime. At the same time, flavors like neroli and lavender just didn't seem to work in the modern profile.
Exactly.
They added a strong floral note that isn't found in today's Coke.
Yeah,
and
why
also
would you
made
put
it taste like
the
artificial
lavender?
sweeteners were being used. And despite showing up in most recipes, orange didn't really seem to fit either. At least not in the large amounts that are usually suggested. 1 to 2% ended up being the sweet spot, and while modestly important to the flavor, higher amounts would begin to throw off the citrus notes. Of the other flavors I tested, Kaffir lime leaf was by far the most out of place.
What?
Since it basically tasted like citronella.
Okay.
Clove was similarly
Fair enough.
overbearing and noticeably different from the spices found in Coke, while black pepper and vanilla contrastingly seemed to do very little. I mean,
Black
if I
pepper, get
really
out.
boosted the vanilla,
No
it
way.
was detectable
No way there's
and the
black
perceived
pepper in
sweetness would go
Coca-Cola.
up. But black pepper mostly just seemed to accentuate the more earthy flavors already found in nutmeg.
Yeah, and it would just make the whole thing taste spicy. Why would you voluntarily drink a drink that has pepper in it? Isn't this what you do when like you're at a restaurant and then your friend goes to the toilet and then like he has a glass of water like at his table, and so you just like pour as much pepper into it as possible and see whether he drinks it like when he comes back?
Now, while I did gather at least a rough idea of what's in Coca-Cola from these early trials, I still had no idea what the correct ratios were, or what ingredients I was missing. So to find out, I cracked out my secret weapons.
Science.
Scientific papers, and chemical analysis. In terms of analysis, Vince from Neptunium and Ben from Mass Spec Everything agreed to analyze Coca-Cola, my ingredients, and a few similar sodas like Pepsi using their mass spectrometers. These machines essentially take a tiny sample of whatever you want, split it into chemical fractions using either a liquid or gas chromatography column, and then analyze each fraction by ionizing and firing its components through a magnetic field.
Bro, what an absolute sweat. We're bringing out the mass spectrometer for this. Bro, the last time I saw this was in high school science class. I kind of forgot what this was, but then when you explained it again, now I remember. Bro, we had to study these stupid math spectrometer things in high school, like year 12. In our year 12 exam, we had to analyze these things and figure out like what each, like the spikes of like, we had to figure out which spike each of like the elements correlated with. Like what elements the spikes correlated with and all that stuff. Bro, this was in all of our year 12 exams and everything. This actually gives me flashbacks. It gives me PTSD. I hated these questions. It always took so long to learn exactly like how to analyze a mass spectrometer graph.
Much like a prism splitting up light, the magnetic field splits up ions based on their mass, giving a sort of fingerprint that can be used to identify what chemical was ionized. That's the explanation, and this is the exact chemical makeup of Coca-Cola.
Okay, what is this?
Let's dissect its secrets, shall we? The dominant peak we found was something called alpha-terpineol, which mostly arises from the acid-catalyzed hydrolysis of limonene and pinene, and it hints that citrus oils do in fact make up a large portion of Coke's flavor. The next major peak is actually the remaining limonene, followed by 4-terpineol and fenchol. Cinnamaldehyde, saponine, and carine were also detected.
Bro, okay, you're gonna have to calm down here, bro. This is actually giving me flashbacks to year 12. We had to do so many of these stupid, like, graph questions about, like, trying to figure out which each of these peaks correlated to. I can't even remember, like, how to figure it out. There was some sort of, like, formula or, like, method that we had to do to try to turn this into, like, oh my god, bro. This is actually what I had to do in high school every single day. But anyway, so it's citrus. So it's just lemon, lime, and then there just must be another ingredient. I bet it all boils down to lemon, lime, and then, like, a third ingredient. Maybe nutmeg,
indicating the presence of cinnamon and nutmeg. And finally, we found eucalyptol, borneol, furfural from the caramel color, and ethyl levolinate. Levolinic acid and its esters form when sugars like fructose are heated under acidic conditions, which suggests that Coca-Cola undergoes heating at some point during its production.
Oh.
Now, this is all well and good, but unfortunately, we couldn't pin down the exact concentration of each component using this data.
But I mean, it's still
a mass
useful.
spectrometer's output is given as a plot of relative intensity, not concentration. If you want concentration, you usually have to do a lot of math and other testing to figure out how different chemicals interact with the machine.
We'll just ask AI.
So, instead of relying purely on the mass spectrometry data we collected, I chose to also lean on the data from this article in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. This table in particular listed pretty much every flavor found in Coca-Cola, and even gave their measured concentrations.
Oh.
There were a few flavors they left out, such as fenchel, but I figured once the concentrations of other ingredients were determined, these secondary flavors would be easy to dial in with the help of mass spectrometry. I won't be going through every chemical on this list, but there are a few I'd like to point out that reveal important information about the secret formula.
But then why not use this in the first place?
Obviously, cinnamaldehyde and vanillin can be directly correlated with cinnamon and vanilla, so we can check those off as part of Coke's recipe. Limonene and alpha-terpineol are also present, along with aldehydes like octanol, nonanol, and decanol, which collectively signal the strong presence of citrus oils. This is all stuff we mostly knew. Things get interesting, though, with linalool and the various forms of eugenol. Eugenol and its esters make up 80 to 90% of clove oil, which is one of the suggested ingredients that people reference from time to time.
But it didn't
However,
taste like
the
it.
concentrations found in Coke are only enough to account for the traces contributed by nutmeg and cinnamon oils.
Bro, I bet Coke just put all these random ingredients in there just to try to justify that it's making a tiny little difference to make the actual Coke taste a little bit more unique. But I bet if you eliminated one of these things, nobody would be able to tell. It's sort of like the 80-20 rule. And so in this situation, I bet like 80% of the flavor of Coca-Cola is dependent on 20% of the ingredients. And I bet the 20% is lemon, lime, and nutmeg,
which are much more definitive ingredients. And since clove oil threw off the flavor in my early tests, I think it's fairly safe to rule it out as a potential flavor. Sticking with ingredients we already discussed, linalool also rules out a few potential flavors. To explain how, though, we need to talk about enantiomers. Basically, for a molecule like linalool, two mirrored versions exist, R and S.
What? Aren't they the
You
same?
can flip them around all you want, but no orientation will make them identical.
Huh?
Interestingly, the R enantiomer of linalool makes up the majority of both lavender and neroli oils, while the S enantiomer makes up the majority of coriander oil. And, according to the study, Coca-Cola contains mostly S-linalool, with the amount of R-linalool only being enough to cover what would come from the citrus oils. Some might argue that chemicals like nerol and nerol signify the presence of neroli, but this simply isn't the case.
What, so the third ingredient
These
is
compounds are
coriander,
found in citrus
not
oils
nutmeg.
just like linalool, meaning we can pretty definitively say neroli and lavender are not ingredients in Coke. The last chemical I'm going to bring up
I think we
is
already
acetic
established
acid.
lavender is not in
To
Coke.
me, this one was kind of a shock, especially with it being the third most prominent flavor by mass.
Really?
My first thought was that it was simply arising from the acid-catalyzed breakdown of acetate esters in the cola. But after talking with Darcy over on the Art of Drink channel, and seeing it in an actual recipe from the 1950s, I'm almost certain that's being added deliberately.
Damn, that would taste disgusting though. Me personally, I don't really drink Coke. I don't think it tastes that good. But maybe this is why I don't think it tastes that good, because it has white vin in it. Why would you add this to Coca-Cola? Maybe it just gives it such a sour taste that it's like the unique flavor profile, and maybe that's why it succeeded back in the day. Bro, but that is disgusting. It has white vin in it. Isn't that what you put with like fish and chips?
To be clear, the amounts being used are in the range of parts per million.
Oh, okay.
But I still find it kind of funny
5%?
that vinegar is probably one of the secret ingredients. With the major flavoring compounds identified and correlated with existing ingredients, I set up an Excel spreadsheet to make iterating my recipes a bit easier. A mixing calculator would basically take the volume of each oil being added, determine how much of each component was present, and then compare that data with the Coca-Cola numbers. Once everything was matching, I would take the recipe, log it on a separate tab with notes about the soda it made, and finally rank how close it was to real Coke. Unfortunately, while most of the flavor compounds could be easily connected to at least one of the essential oils, there were a few that just weren't showing up on the mass spectrum. Specifically, fenchel and 4-terpineol.
Get rid of it.
Originally,
They've got to go, blood.
alpha-terpineol was
They've
also
got
on
to
this
go.
list, but after modifying my soda preparation to include heating, there was more than enough of it to go around.
Oh, okay.
For the fenchel, I simply resorted to buying the raw chemical. But for
fair enough.
4-terpineol, I started down a completely new rabbit hole.
Wait, what is that thing on the label? If breathed in, move person into something. If not breathing, give out. What? Okay, if on skin, wash off with soap. Are you sure we're allowed to eat this, drink this?
You see, the taste of Coca-Cola can be divided into a few main groups. The two we've tackled so far, and the two most people stop at, are citrus and brown spices, along with less pronounced subgroups like caramel and vanilla. What most people tend to overlook are the more green, fresh flavors that seem to come from the coca leaf.
Right, it's just
Without these
Coca-Cola.
flavors, you tend to end up with a more spice-centered drink like Pepsi.
It tastes the
for my
same
source
to me.
of
Pepsi and
4-terpineol,
Coke
I
taste the
decided to
same.
go with an essential oil that I felt would reintroduce those missing flavors. Tea tree oil. By mass, this stuff is close to 50% forterpineal, and most of the other chemicals it contains match up with those found in Coca-Cola, so it doesn't really mess up the mass spectrum. When I began using it, I noticed an immediate improvement in the flavor, although it never fully replenished the missing freshness. Overall, it was more like drinking Diet Coke than regular Coke, and no amount of tweaking or adding essential oils seemed to change that. I spent months adjusting the recipe, testing new ingredients, and forcing family members to taste my experiments. Eventually, my original soda stream gave out, and I had to buy a second one.
Bro, is this safe? Is this even safe? If the recipe is causing your soda stream to break, is this even safe for human consumption? Is there a reason why you're feeding it to your dad instead of drinking it yourself? What if it's poison, bro? What if your dad actually gets poisoned from it? But at least you didn't drink it yourself, right? But it's been a while since I've drank Coke. So what is this, the refreshing flavor? Is there really that much of a refreshing flavor to Coke? Like whenever I've drank Coke, all I remember is that it just tastes really dark. Like it just has a really dark flavor. It sort of tastes like I'm just drinking food dye straight up because it's like brown colored. I don't think I've ever felt refreshed after drinking Coke. I've just felt sick. Like I just feel like nauseous.
This is starting to become unreasonably expensive.
I tested cassia cinnamon versus cinnamon leaf, different versions of nutmeg and lime, heating and aging versus not, even adding trace flavors like isobutyl. Heck, I even tested completely random flavors to see if they'd fill in what was lacking. They never did.
Spearmint.
After a certain point, I was pretty close to throwing in the towel. Maybe people were right to say that Coca-Cola is impossible to replicate without coca leaves.
So just buy coca leaves.
The answer finally hit me. Coca leaf extract is essentially a type of tea, and teas contain tannins. These tannins possess a dry, astringent taste that can help mask sweet flavors. And since they're non-volatile, they don't usually show up on gas-based mass spectrums, explaining how I missed them for so long. Best of all, they're sold in a purified state for winemaking, meaning I could quickly get a hold of a sample and test out my theory.
Oh damn, that looks like
Milo
Milo milk.
Worth it. This is the mass spectrum of Coca-Cola, and this is the mass spectrum of one of my replicas.
Damn. Okay. Wait. That is like 1-to-1. So this is the what is it? The okay, I can't even remember the lemon lime, and then this is like the lime thing again, and then the rest looks pretty accurate. Like it's not the exact same, but I think it's close enough because this is like what are the units here? It's like so small that it's like this is pretty much spot on.
They're nearly identical, and the flavor, well, what can I say? It tastes like Coke. There are tiny differences, of course. But honestly, this stuff is closer to classic Coke than Coke's own glass bottle or Diet Colas are, and infinitely closer than any other replica. It definitely checks out as Coca-Cola, at least to me. We'll get to other people's reactions and opinions here in a minute. But first, let me show you exactly how it's made.
Oh, okay, this is the recipe.
Brief
the Krabby
spoiler,
Patty.
the startup cost for this recipe can be kinda high. Unless you have a pre-existing stockpile of essential oils and accurate measuring equipment.
Oh yeah, because essential oils are pretty expensive because it's like concentrated flavor. This is because you can use this for like a lot of different things.
Once you have everything though, you can easily produce a bulk flavor solution that will last for years and allow you to create servings of Coke for mere pennies. No more paying a company that won't even pay real animators. In terms of hardware, we'll need a mass scale, an adjustable micropipette that can accurately dispense up to 1,000 microliters,
Okay.
a 50 milliliter graduated cylinder, some 1 liter storage bottles,
Yeah, okay, we can
and
buy this
some
on
kind
Amazon.
of heat-resistant glassware for making the syrup.
Bro, imagine ordering all this stuff. Imagine how sus this will look. Like, imagine if you haven't told anyone in your house, like, what you're doing. You just order a weighing scales and then all these, like, little things in the jar and the flask and everything. Bro, it 100% looks like you were cooking something in your garage or something. If you had, like, roommates or something, they'd 100% call the FBI on you. If my roommate, like, in the future, if my roommate, like, ordered this stuff and it, like, arrived at our front door, maybe I would put an anonymous tip into the FBI. Because this, bro, there is no way that he is making Coca-Cola. He's making the OG ingredient of Coca-Cola.
Resist the temptation to use metal cookware, since phosphoric acid can attack it and dissolve less than healthy metals into the soda. There is a reason soda cans have that plastic liner. Finally, you can also use a magnetic stirrer for mixing, as well as a 1 liter volumetric flask to make the dilution steps a bit easier. For ingredients, we have all the essential oils seen here: sugar, carbonated water, caffeine, caramel color, food grade alcohol, 85% phosphoric acid, glycerin, wine tannin,
Bro, he's leaking
5%
the entire
vinegar, vanilla
recipe.
extract, and fenchol. Quick note, fenchol melts just above room temperature, so you might need to warm it up in some hot water before beginning. I bought my sample on Amazon, and after testing it, I can confirm its flavor is present in Coke, so use it if you can. For caramel color, I used Shank's brand. but other varieties like Durkee should work just as well, as long as they're composed of actual caramel color and not a mix of red and green food dyes.
Caramel
If
color?
you don't use Shanks though, try playing with the amounts you add to get the right color. Also, keep in
Why
mind
does
that
the
we are
color
working
matter?
with chemicals here, including a few that are mildly hazardous. So, for your own safety, wear gloves, measure accurately, and don't taste any of the unmixed ingredients.
Yeah. Wait, but why we... Wait. If we're working with chemicals that are hazardous, why are we even drinking it? Is Coca-Cola even safe to drink then?
The first step is to prepare what most people call the 7X flavoring, which is the mixture of essential oils and alcohol that make up the Coca-Cola secret formula. To be clear, what I'm about to share is not the Coca-Cola secret formula, since I failed to utilize decoconized coca leaf extract. Chemically though, it's about as close as you can get without it, and the real deal should be fairly similar. The recipe is 45.8 milliliters lemon, 36.5 milliliters lime, 1.2 milliliters orange, 8 milliliters tea tree, 4.5 milliliters cassia cinnamon, 2.7 milliliters nutmeg, 0.7 milliliters coriander, and 0.6 milliliters fenchol. And optimally, you'd let this mixture age for a day or two before continuing.
So that is
Art of Drink
Coca-Cola.
has an excellent video explaining why, and even the original Pemberton version of Coca-Cola includes this aging step. In the end, you'll be rewarded with about 100 milliliters of flavor oil.
Bro, that is not flavor oil. That is piss. That is urine. That is my own urine that I released from my bladder this morning. What, so you just add this to the caramel flavoring and then it will just turn into Coca-Cola and then you can just dilute it with like the soda water and everything? But the thing is, what if he actually got his hands on the cocoa leaf? So I think the issue is that in America, maybe there's like a monopoly over cocoa leaf, like production and like processing. And so he's literally blocked from doing it because I don't think Coca-Cola wants anyone else to be able to attempt to do what he's doing. But I think as long as it's like chemically the same, that's like pretty much the same thing, right?
Which is enough for over 5,000 liters of soda.
5,000.
Or about as much as your mom drinks in a day.
Shut up.
To make the 7X solution, simply dilute 20 milliliters of the flavor oil to a volume of 1 liter using food-grade alcohol. And before anyone gets worried, the amount of alcohol being added to the final soda is 5 times less than what you get from a non-alcoholic beer, and far too little to taste or make this drink intoxicating. Other flavor extracts like vanilla or almond use ethanol as a solvent. This is no different. Still, if alcohol is an issue, you can emulsify the oil into water with the help of gum arabic. Check out Glenn and Friends Cooking to see how he does this with his cola. Anyway, next, we'll need to make a secondary water-based solution containing the other ingredients, aside from sugar and carbonated water. Into roughly 200 milliliters of hot water, measure out 10 milliliters of 5% vinegar, 9.65 grams of caffeine, 175 grams
that's
of
a
glycerin,
lot of caffeine.
45 milliliters of 85% phosphoric acid, 8 grams of wine tannins, 10 milliliters of vanilla extract, and 320 milliliters of Shanks caramel color.
Whoa, that's a lot.
In case you're wondering, the glycerin is being added for texture and mouthfeel. Without it, the drink tends to feel a bit thinner and more like diet soda. Also, if using vanilla extract feels imprecise, you can alternatively mix up a solution containing 9.5 grams per liter of vanillin and use 1 milliliter of that.
Bro, is this Coca-Cola? Are we still making Coca-Cola or is this paint? This looks like paint. Why is that so dark? Is this really what we drink every time we drink Coca-Cola? Bro, this is exactly why I stopped drinking Coca-Cola.
Given the fairly limited impact vanilla seems to have though, you probably wouldn't notice a major difference. Give each ingredient time to fully incorporate before adding the next. And once everything is dissolved, dilute the mixture to a final volume of 1 liter using water. Now, let's make some Coca-Cola. For this demo, I'll be making 1 liter, just so scaling up or down is a bit easier. Into a glass dish, add 104 grams of sugar.
That's a lot of sugar.
And just enough water to dissolve everything. I know I said 110 grams of sugar per liter of soda at the beginning of the video, but here's the deal. That's for a mixture of fructose and glucose, like you'd find in corn syrup.
Oh.
If we add 110 grams of
Won't be
sucrose
sweet
or
enough.
cane sugar, the phosphoric acid will cause it to react with the water and form nearly 116 grams of those simpler sugars. That would throw off the sweetness of the drink, so we use less sugar to compensate.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
I have
next
no
we
idea
add our
what's
flavor
happening.
solutions to the syrup. 10 milliliters of the water-based solution, and 1 milliliter of the alcohol-based 7X solution. You might need a few extra drops of the 7X solution, it really depends on your taste. As soon as everything is combined, microwave or otherwise heat the mixture until nearly boiling, and cover to prevent the more volatile flavors from escaping.
That's
Heating
not
like this
really fully
helps the
covered
phosphoric
though.
acid break down compounds like limonene and citral, and it also accelerates that sugar hydrolysis reaction we just talked about. So
yeah.
it's a fairly crucial
Facts.
step.
Facts.
Once fully cooled, dilute the syrup to a volume of 1 liter with cold carbonated water. This can either be bought or made yourself using a soda stream. Just don't attempt to carbonate the fully mixed soda on the machine. It tends to produce a lot of foam, which can lead to bacterial growth if you're not careful. And this is our finished Coca-Cola. You can drink it directly, but if you want the most accurate version of the final flavor, allow the soda to rest for a day or so in the fridge. And again, while the flavor is as close as I could get to Coke after a year of trying, and certainly closer than any other clone I've tasted, there is still room for perfection. So if you have the ingredients, feel free to experiment. And for future reference, I'll have the most up-to-date version of the recipe in the video description.
What, so now this is going to become some sort of like worldwide challenge? Like everyone's going to try and get their hands on the coca leaf so that we can actually do it with the coca leaf as ingredients? Is it like going to be like a $1 million bounty or something? Imagine if a company did that as like a marketing stunt. Like imagine if Pepsi did that as a marketing stunt. Imagine if they had like a competition, a $1 million bounty for somebody to try and figure out the like ingredients, the recipe of Coca-Cola. And like they wouldn't even need to use the recipe because they have their own Pepsi recipe, but it would just be like a marketing stunt. It would just generate so much attention.
Of course, I could go on and on about how I think my cola tastes, but what do other people think? Is this a convincing replica, or just another Pemberton knockoff?
It tastes the same. It tastes the same.
Well, I set up several blind and non-blind taste tests, and people actually had trouble telling it apart from real Coke.
This is regular Coke, see, I can't even tell. Even though I know already, I can't even tell.
9.5 out of 10.
9.5 out of 10. That's pretty good.
That tastes pretty close. Like, I may not be able to tell if these were side by side with the original taste.
I know that is definitely, Coke or a Coke product. If you said it was vanilla Coke or something like that, I'd be like, yeah, maybe that's definitely Coke.
I think this is more similar to this bottle than this is to that bottle, which is crazy to think about now that I said that out loud.
Yeah, that's a Coke product. I wasn't expecting it to taste so much like Coke. Oh my gosh, hold on, I gotta go again.
He has to go for seconds.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, like if you sold this on the shelves, I'd buy it.
Regular Coke drinkers were better picking mine out from the mix, but the general consensus was that Lab Cola could be mistaken for Coke.
Bro, what do you mean by regular Coke drinkers? You treating him as if he's like some sort of like Olympian like Coke tester? Is it like a blind Coke test sort of like event in the Olympics or something? I don't know whether like being able to pick out like the fake Coke is like really that much of an impressive skill, low-key, no offense.
And not other colas like Pepsi. When tasted on its own, without Coca-Cola as a direct reference, people overwhelmingly thought it was the real deal. Unlike the Pemberton recipe, Open Cola, and other clones I had them try.
Yeah, that's not Coke. Oh.
No, that's not Coke. No, that's not even, like, it's a cola, but like that's not Coke. That is just straight flour.
It's very cinnamony to me. That's like almost pure cinnamon.
But like the thing is, like if you think about it, the thing is like if like Open Cola was like the first cola or like the most widely drank or widely distributed cola, then people would be saying that this is the best cola. I think it's only because Coca-Cola is so like widely drank that like they are the most dominant one. Like honestly, it could have been anything. Like I think the flavor is less important than the actual branding. I think it's the fact that Coca-Cola has like everybody stocking it in their fridge and everyone just drinks it every single day. They just get it's sort of like an acquired taste. I think that's the only reason why Coke is on top. I don't think it's necessarily the flavor, but I think it's more so the branding.
Like like those little candies.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not Coke.
All right, I think that's finally it. 2025 is coming to a close, and it has been an insane year for this channel.
And we are not going to last another year. 2 days later, Coca-Cola filed a massive cease and desist lawsuit, took down his entire channel, took down his house. They like mortgaged the house, like destroyed the mortgage. They got the bank to repossess his house, repossess his car, repossess his kids, repossess his wife, and then his life spiraled downhill from there, all because he successfully recreated the Coca-Cola recipe.